Mr Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr Warwicker, who is a shareholder.
Mr Warwick, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Firstly, Mr Turner, congratulations on a record profit this year. We need strong banks, and I'm sure it's great that you contribute in the way that you have. Unfortunately, this year there's also been record bad press around the Commonwealth Bank. It appears some of the methods being employed to generate these record profits are potentially and increasingly questionable. My understanding is the current level of bad press is also only the tip of the iceberg. There's an elephant in the room. I've conducted significant research into the social costs of the victims of the Commonwealth Bank in Australia, particularly around Bankwest acquisition in 2008 and the subsequent actions of the bank, and that human cost is truly sickening. As CEO of the bank, Mr Narev makes a lot of time to get out and speak to all a diverse range of people in the community, and that's commendable. Speaks at international philanthropy events, positions himself as both a model corporate citizen and a thought leader in business. Again, truly admirable. Yet there's a dark shadow in the CBA's backyard. Like the Catholic Church had, like James Hardie had, like the manufacturers of thalidomide had. Yet the bank is quiet, the bank is silent. Listening this morning, Mr Turner, to your reassurance about your commitment to ethics and to serious issues in the community and those relating to customers, perhaps there's been a massive misunderstanding or it's been approached the wrong way how to contact Mr Narev and or the board and bring to attention the growing concern that this research is concluding around the acquisition of this bank and the impact. The actions of the bank, as with the aforementioned now infamous cases of people who use the ostrich strategy to avoid a problem, appear contradictory to the long-term objective and strategy of contributing to long-term shareholder value, which you say, and I'm sure you are, committed to. I'm one shareholder who would rather more modest share price and returns if it meant one less family being ripped apart for the sake of bank profits or a misunderstanding that's not corrected properly. My question's changed slightly since I heard your comments, Mr Turner, about your ethics, and I've changed that question in good faith to how do people with serious systemic issues, and our market estimates between $2 billion and $14 billion worth of impact torn out of the community, how do we raise genuine dialogue in good faith with the board when there are such serious matters? Because all attempts, both through the bank's internal systems, through mainstream press and other activities, are failing. Thank you.
Good. That's a multi-part question. First of all, I really must say I don't think that any comparison between the bank and thalidomide or any of the other catastrophes that have happened in the past is at all valid or appropriate. Just say that up front. In terms of Bankwest, I think what you're referring to is something that cropped up last year and has cropped up previous years, and that is that there is a feeling somewhere or other that as a part of the Bankwest transaction we had a period after we bought the bank, a long period after we bought the bank, at which we could somehow foreclose on debts and then reclaim from HBOS, who were the people that sold us the bank, and that is absolutely not right. Once the deal was completed and we had the bank, that was the end of that. That was the end of that. As Ian said in his talk earlier, we have to pursue bad debts because we are in the business of lending money. We're in the money business. We have to do it in the interest of all of our shareholders. And sometimes it's not easy for the people at the other end of the transaction. It's difficult. It's probably the most emotive product we could be dealing in, and we do it. We do it as well as we possibly can. Just staying on Bankwest for a second. I mean, the only case that has come to court, the judge ruled completely in favour of the bank, and in doing so complimented us on the way in which we had treated the customer, and that's the only one that has yet come to court. So there is that illusion about having this sort of long-term clawback, which we don't have, and there is also the fact that the one that's come to court, we absolutely won, and it's our responsibility to defend our shareholders' interests. And I know that customers, don't like it because it's their money, it's their houses, it's their livelihood. But That's that side of banking, but it's very necessary and it's a part of the business. Now, Ian, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just on the, I'd like to add a broad point of principle. There is not a single member of this bank's board or management team who enjoys a customer in distress. And I can categorically tell you that. There is not a single member of the board or the management team that is indifferent to people's suffering when they struggle to pay back money. So there are people who, in different circumstances, I'm not talking about Bankwest specifically, like to portray boards, management teams as pursuing their own interests, indifferent to people's hardship, etc. This is the worst part of the job. Unfortunately, when you've got $100 billion of shareholders' money and $700 billion of shareholders' loans and $400 billion of Australians' deposits, you need to continue to pursue cases where you feel that the shareholders' position is in the right. In a lot of these cases, the point made you'd like a lower profit or share price, it wouldn't even impact the profit or the share price. So it's actually not about that. It's about the fact that when we're leading and managing these institutions, we have responsibilities to this vast economy and group of shareholders, and we take that extremely seriously. I'd love to be running this place where all our customers and shareholders were satisfied all the time, and we do our best to do it as ethically, as fairly as possible, and all our processes are geared to that. At the end of that, we have to look ourselves in the eye as a board and management team and say there are going to be cases where people don't agree with us, and that is a regrettable but inevitable part of running this institution.
Thank you for the response. The question remains, my research, and there's a growing volume of research, contradicts that. The question then is, we have a different view, ours may be wrong. How do we get it in front of the board? Because the other way is that there are many, many hundreds of Australian entrepreneurs who are very, very clever people that have nothing left to lose and will continue this fight as long as they live. I think it would be far more prudent to do it as we would love to do an hour presentation to the board about the position from the research, rather than at the shareholders' cost and risk of the Commonwealth Bank's $13 billion brand equity in the newspapers, the courts and international media. That's my question, is how do we engage with the board in good faith? If your commitment is so high to the ethics of this matter.
I can answer that. The way to do it, look, we have a really good management team here, and Ian and his team, we would say are the best around. We have an open culture. We have an easy culture. News travels fast. We've talked about mistakes that we've made in the past, and I think that's something that we've addressed in this meeting. But the best route to the board, to get any information to the board, is to talk to the management team about it. Drop in a note. You can talk. He'll tell you who to talk to, or you can talk to him, or you can talk to the team here. Present what it is you have to present, have to say, and if they would like to bring it to the board, then that's just fine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your open and honest answer. Thank you.
Okay, done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to introduce Jeff Shannon, who is a shareholder.
Mr. Shannon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman and the board. Thank you. I'm here again this year to address the board and the shareholders of the CBA. Mr. Nerev, if you recall last year I met with you personally, and it was agreed that we were to meet to talk about the victims of the Bankwest takeover. That has not happened as yet. So I want to ask you a question, and the Chairman touched on it before, that is it true that the maximum amount of recovery in the share sale deed to the CBA that they were entitled to was the full initial purchase price?
Yeah, better answer that.
So this has been well covered. Our position on it was covered, including in front of a Senate inquiry. The line that we have somehow put people in hardship in order to have a gain for the Commonwealth Bank is categorically wrong.
I'm asking you again.
That's my answer to the question.
Okay. So there was no clause in the share sale deed allowing you
all the answers we have to that question are now a matter of public record.
And I just, yeah, okay. The warranty that was involved in that time limit, was it 6 months or 12 months, Mr. Nev?
That is another question. All that we have to say on it, sir, is now a matter of public record.
Are you happy to meet again, Mr. Nev? We were going to meet last year after our meeting, but that hasn't happened.
I don't think it's appropriate in front of all these shareholders to have this discussion. I would generally say that I spend a lot of my time meeting customers who have legitimate complaints. I'm always happy to do that. There are circumstances in some customer situations around customer behaviour that make that a little more difficult from my point of view, including when comments that I have made have been misrepresented to others. That, as you can imagine, might make those sorts of conversations in some circumstances a little more difficult.
Yeah, I understand, and that's all I have to say.
Good, thank you, Mr. Shannon. Microphone 4 again, please.